So if I can help some Aussie people who I like and, and trust, then that's what I'm going to do. That's the way I am. There's still life in the old dog. We can't go on forever, and we have to accept that. That's the hardest thing, I guess. Felt like there was a load of bricks taken off the top of my head, like all the pressure had gone, and then I knew I was open to new things for this year.
Hello and welcome back to the MODUS Super Series. We do love to talk to the dart players that come to Portsmouth, and they don't come any bigger than the wizard Simon Whitlock. For our Tungsten Talk today, Simon, we've spoken to you at length before about your career, but today I want to focus primarily on what's happened in the last year, because as you well know, you lost your tour card very recently, but I want you to tell us what it was like in the last 12 months with your last year on the PDC Tour.
Well, it wasn't great, obviously. I had some pretty disappointing results. I don't think I played too bad, but my draws were really tough. I had playing seeded players most week, and I was pushing them, obviously, and just didn't seem to get too many wins.
Was there a point in the season where you thought that maybe retaining your tour status was beyond your capabilities, or did you believe all the way through to the last chance qualifier for the Worlds that it was still going to happen?
Yeah, I sort of knew if I didn't win some matches, then I could be in trouble to lose my card, but I never gave up belief that I was going to hold it, and it came right down to the wire in the end, and it wasn't a bad thing in the end.
Going away from that qualifier at the end of November, what was the feeling like getting in the car, coming back home to Hampshire? Did it feel strange knowing that your privileges were pretty much gone at that point?
Yeah, it felt really weird. But also it felt good in a way because I felt like there was a load of bricks taken off the top of my head, like all the pressure had gone, and then I knew I was open to new things for this year.
Scott, we can all sympathise with that because we've all been through it. I've lost my card a couple of times. You've lost yours. Simon's now lost his. But I think the most important thing right now is to, accept what has happened and see what other opportunities are available.
And it sounds a really easy thing to do, but it's not. It's like Simon said, you get midway through last year in it, and it starts to get a burden, and you start to just have it as a little doubt in the back of your mind, and you start thinking, please give me a favourable draw, and then you look at the draw and it just doesn't go your way, and it just everything is built to just drag you down a little bit and down a little bit. But once you come off, it is like taking the bricks off your back. It weighs you down because it's so important to you. And then when you come off, it's like you say, you then start looking around at new avenues and start attending new things and doing new stuff, and it all starts to sort of feel like it's happened for a reason.
You've been on the tour pretty much since 2009, Simon. And when you first joined, you were obliterating people left, right and centre, picking up titles left, right and centre. But what's the biggest change for you that you've seen in the last 15 years on the PDC Tour?
Just all the young lads coming through, and the darts is just, everybody's got better, and some of us haven't got better. We've either stayed the same or slightly declined with our darts.
What's been the reception over the last, say, 6 weeks or so from, say, social media sites or people who are close to you? What kind of support have you had for the next phase of your career?
Well, I don't do a lot of social media, but all the people around me have been very supportive, and they know I've got some really good things ahead of me this year. And, I look at it as a positive. I'm excited for this year. I'm excited for darts still. I still love the game. As long as I'm playing darts, it doesn't really matter where I am or which country I'm in playing darts. As long as I'm playing darts, I'm really happy.
There have been other transitions in your darts career before, because what a lot of people don't remember is that you were actually in the PDC before you made your name massively in the BDO. So you played the likes of Peter Manley and Paul Williams at the World Championship very early in your career. But you've had transitions before, and I suppose with that experience, it makes the next transition easier. Yeah,
absolutely. I'll just go from one thing to the next, and like I keep saying, as long as I'm throwing darts, I'm really happy. It's not about playing for world championships. Of course, that's what we all want to do is win a world title, and I've won a pairs one, but yeah, as long as I'm throwing darts, I'm happy.
Does that prove, Scott, that for some people it's not necessarily about some things about the sport, it's the search that is the exciting thing?
Yeah, very much so. And I think that's the same for everybody that's been at any point in the game. But a lot of fans will look at it and go, well, how can you be happy not being on the tour? And how can you be happy playing somewhere different and doing other things? But sometimes a change is as good as a rest. It really can give you a big sort of kickstart into a new part of your dart in life. And I think sometimes that does get overlooked. You know, yeah, that when you're at the top end of the game and the money is fantastic and, you know, life is good, but I think every dart player knows we don't look more than year to year. We know that it's got to maybe take a back seat. You can't just keep going up and up on that mountain. So at some point you have to drop back down a little bit. And it's how you accept that and where you go once it happens. And sometimes for guys, you know, like Simon and myself, we've been touring for a long, long time. Sometimes it's nice to just go and do something different, but still throwing darts the same. And it just feels great.
You know, there's still life in the old dog. You know, we can't go on forever, and we have to accept that. That's the hardest thing, I guess. I mean, we want to stay at the top of the game forever, but you can't do that. And it's just, you know, accepting where you are and how life is, really.
You look at someone like Phil Taylor, mid-50s, when he decided to walk away from the PDC, he still had another part of his career to come with the World Seniors. You guys have got that to look forward to, even though they've dropped the limit for that to 45. But I suppose moving forward, you have to create new goals, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm in the seniors this year, and looking at the class of field, it is tough. I mean, it's no tougher than a pro tour, really. I mean, there's so many great names in there.
Looking at the way that darts has changed over the last couple of years, you're obviously in a building like this that didn't even exist 2.5 years ago. When you were coming off the tour at the beginning of January, was it easier knowing that there were these other promotions to play in? Because in previous times, I mean, we've been around thinking, if you lose your card, what do we do? So the MODUS Super Series and the ADC in particular, it makes that cushion a little bit easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many new things we can play in now which weren't available a few years ago, and I guess that's the best thing about darts. It's progressing, and there's more opportunities everywhere you go, and it's not just here in England, it's in all countries.
Have we got a bigger perspective of that, Scott, because of the kind of experience that we have over the course of playing darts for 20 years? In Simon and your case, maybe a little bit longer, because we've seen BDO darts, we've seen WDF, we've seen lots of different changes, especially over the last 5 years. So with that experience, do we value things like this a bit more?
I think you do as you get a little bit older as well. I think, you know, the what I call the undercard to the 128 Pro Tour now, there never really was sort of the statute. It was just the BDO. Now you've got 2 or 3 sort of other options. It's you know, we've got people questioning now at the tail end of the 128, do they actually want a card or do they not? Because the options away from that top 128, your Challenge Tour, as a second tier, I think is a great idea. And I just think that now the ADC has come to the fore. The WDF is still out there doing bits and pieces. I think there's no better time to have been a dart player in any level of the sport. I think it's kind of blanket covered, and most sports would love to have what we have and the TV coverage that we have for all darts up and down the range. So for me, I don't think it's a bad thing to maybe drop off and find yourself again. And there's going to be players doing it that drop off the tour, find themselves again in these other organisations, and pop back on it with a bit of confidence.
Well, we're here in week 2 of the MODUS Super Series in Series 10, and we're speaking to Simon today, and we've seen someone yesterday who was at the ADC Global Championship in Andreas Nicolaou. We got the sense that him playing you yesterday was a very big deal for him. Now, when you come down to this level and you still want to thrive, do you see new competition when it comes to people you've never played before?
Oh yeah, definitely, and it's exciting to play new players who I haven't played before. Like I've seen this guy play once on MODUS. There's another guy, Steve, like I've never even heard of him, and wow, they could all play darts. That's brilliant.
And as far as the future is concerned, Simon, we know that you're always looking for the next available thing, whether it's equipment or the next tournament, and you're not ashamed to look very locally and to play amongst people who have never had a tour card, never even been to the Challenge Tour, because you've rebuilt your career before by playing locally, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you can't win your local tournaments, then you're in trouble because they're tough, and if you can't, like that's like a stepping stone. You have to win your local things to progress to the next level. So they're very important, and it's great playing different people week in, week out.
What does it say to everybody else, Scott, when someone as iconic as Simon walks through the door of a local club in somewhere like Southampton or Waterlooville in Hampshire, and they say, what's he doing here? Well, there's a specific reason, isn't there?
That used to be the reaction. Yeah, I absolutely say when Simon walked through the door, and it's not just locally, it'll be an hour and a half up the road. Simon goes and finds where he feels the games are going to be there to improve his game. And I just love that fact. And I think a lot of the people do say, you know, what's he doing here? Oh, he's pot hunting, he's this, he's that. No, he couldn't get further from the truth. He's just trying to keep his form to where it is, trying to use sort of like, it's a real hotbed of darts around this area. Anyway, we hear about it being all up north and what have you, but there's so many guys that have held a tour card that maybe don't have one around this area, new up and coming guys that are going in and getting a tour card. And so your standard is dictated to by the types of player that you're playing. And Simon goes and finds these players around here, turns up at their little local comps, and you just go toe-to-toe with them. I don't think anybody gets upset about it. I mean, might have done in the early days, but it's become such a norm now. Oh, Simon will be there today. That people just take it on the chin and go, wow, it's great to have him here.
Does it prove to you, because you've been to qualifying school for the first time recently, and the Challenge Tour straight after, just what the fine line is between that level of darts and the Pro Tour?
Yeah, I mean, there's a very fine line, and a lot of it's on the day, you know, like you could get a card if you play well enough, but you sometimes need a little bit of luck as well. Yeah.
Looking to the future, we know that this year you'll probably spend a lot of time here at the studio in Portsmouth because it's very close to where you live. Yeah. That's very handy. But looking further afield as well, there are changes coming globally with darts, which is something that you may be able to help with. Mm-hmm. We've heard about the new ANZ Premier League in Australia. Yeah. Now, I personally think, and I don't know what you feel about this, but I think Australia, as far as darts is concerned, it somewhat has stagnated a little bit. It needs another kickstart, like it had around, say, 2007 when the World Championship moved to Alexandra Palace, when Steve MacArthur made his way here. Yeah. When the Australian Open was created, and it was won by Glenn Power, and then Steve came over, we almost saw Australian darts kick-started then. What do you feel about the way it needs to be kick-started now?
Well, yeah, I think with this Australian Premier League, it's going to give opportunities to players who haven't had that experience on TV to give them that boost, what they need to progress the darts.
So people like Joe Comito, maybe Brandon Weening, the talent is there. I've spoken to Stuart Coburn, who's a great young player from Victoria. We do need this, don't we, Scott? Because when we look at different areas of the world, with the Asian Tour, with the CDC, who've done a fabulous job over there, we need these affiliate tours to give us the talent, and they need the exposure to be able to play in front of cameras. Exactly.
I've been out there and played in 2019, and the talent is definitely there. You know, we saw it on the floor. It's there. We were playing against it, and it's just about getting that opportunity. It's about getting that shop window, because the travel for the Australian guys, I mean, for Simon, he had to tip his life upside down to have the career that he's had. Now, that's not always possible for all players. And at the moment in Australia, there's not the opportunity to be able to jump on and come over. And those that have done it have had Simon at their side and been able to stay with Simon, and he helps them all so much. So if we can get the opportunity for these Australian, New Zealand players to get themselves that little showcase, maybe we're going to see more of them take the path that Simon did.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? Because when you have to sacrifice so much to come over here, you sacrificed so much to come here to the Isle of Wight originally and to turn professional. You went all over the world. You played in Vegas. You played all over Europe. It has paid off. It doesn't pay off for everyone, and sometimes you need that person like yourself to open the door and say, stay with me until you're settled, to give yourself a chance, and you've done that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really expensive, as we know, like to travel, and, you know, just to help someone out, it takes that pressure off. You know, they don't have to fork out for hotels and stuff like that. So if I can help some Aussie people who I like and, you know, and trust, then that's what I'm going to do. That's who I am.
I can't think of many people you haven't helped, Simon. I mean, there are people within the sport that don't even throw darts, and you've helped those as well. But just to name a few, people like Shane Titchevich, who you played many tournaments with in Australia. Corinne Hammond stayed with you. Rob Modger's been over here. Who else has been?
Gigi stayed with me, Gordon Glenn, others. And, now Brandon's been with me for 3 months now, and
Right.
yeah, he's flying. Like he's doing everything right. He missed his card by one spot, so he's going to go back for another 12 months now, and he'll be back next year and try and get his card.
I do fancy that Brandon's destined to come here. As far as the future's concerned with you this year, I don't know what the rules state for the World Cup, but is there a part of you that would love one more World Cup with Damon?
Well, I've sort of been told I'm in as long as no other Aussie had a tour card, so hopefully I'm back.
So in that respect, you're quite glad that Brandon didn't get his card.
Well, you know what, I would have been really proud of him if he had got his card, and I would have been fine with him playing as well. He even said to me, he said, if I get my card, I'm going to step down so you can play one more time.
Okay, so that's one pairs tournament we've spoken about. This year we are going to try some new things at the MODUS Super Series. We're going to have an international pairs here.
Yeah.
If you could choose a partner to have international pairs here who's eligible, who would you choose?
Mason, of course, my son. Yeah, he loves playing darts with me. He travels everywhere with me. He wants to live the dream as well. Like he works hard on his game, and he wants to do everything I've done and more.
Realistically, at this point, how many years do you see Mason applying his trade at this level before getting a tour card? Because there wasn't a great deal of difference average-wise between the two of you at Q School.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. Like, it depends how much work he puts in, how much he wants it. You know, it's all up to the individual what they're going to do. Like, I can only help him as much as I can, like with practice-wise, training, helping him mentally with his game, and the rest is up to him.
With Mason's future, Scott, what do you see in the immediate future for Mason?
Well, I think it's always very difficult for somebody like Mason to come into the game when your father is so well known. Any parent in any sport, you know, when you come into any sport, for the siblings, it's the hardest thing, because I think they have to be that much better than the next person, because they're judged on what their parents are doing. I've experienced that with my two kids. One decided, nah, I'm fed up with getting asked about you, I'm not playing no more. And the other one said, yeah, well, keep going. And she's done what she's done and enjoyed it the way they have. But unfortunately for them as the kid, they're seen very different in the public eye. And there's always he's got a leg up because he's his kid or whatever. And you have to be that much better to try and prove it. And it's so hard for Mason. It's so hard. But he is so good. It's there. I mean, do you remember playing at that age? I mean, I don't remember you at that age, so I don't know what you were like. But for Mason, he could probably be a load better at the age he is now than you were at that age, and he'll get no credit for it. It's so difficult for siblings.
Oh, he's way better than I was at that age as well. Like, but he says he's got a target on his back, and everybody wants to beat him because his name's Whitlock. So, you know, I understand that, but that might work in his advantage in the long run.
Well, there's only two famous Whitlocks really in world sport. There's yourself and Max Whitlock, the gymnast. But I think from an iconic standpoint, we've got to say that you're a bit more iconic than Max is. But looking forward, just going to get one more question in for you this morning. Looking at 2025, if you could win one thing this year, what would you like to win?
I think the Aussie Premier League.
Would that be because you want to be the first name on it?
Well, yeah, and it gets me in the World Championship, so there's a big carrot there.
One last dance, as far as Simon Whitlock's concerned, going back to where probably one of your greatest achievements, making the world final back in 2010 then.
Yeah, that would be very nice.
Well, thanks for your time, Simon. We wish you all the best in 2025. We really, really do mean that. We love watching you play. Scott, thanks for your company. All the very best for 2025. And thanks for your company, everybody. We hope you enjoyed that chat with Simon Whitlock. There's plenty more Tungsten Talks coming your way live on Pluto TV very soon.